even know how to introduce this video. Hey, I'm Michelle with Michelle Loves Books. Welcome back to my channel. I have not done a wrap up for January or February. Most of the books I read were for different projects or videos that have already come out. I did, however, read some books that I'd like to talk to you about because I haven't mentioned them on my channel yet. But I feel really excited about how this year has started out. I have really started off really strong. In January, I read 5 books. In February, I read 9 books. It has been forever since I have read that many books in 1 month, and it just feels so good. I really don't need to talk about every single book that I've read. Many of them I talk about in other projects or videos. Any of those videos, I will leave the link below in the description box if you'd like to check those out. I will go ahead and tell you what books those are. First, for the Vampire Academy Bloodlines Readalong that I am co-hosting with some friends. We read the second and third book in the Vampire Academy series. Those books were Frostbite and Shadowkiss. There is a live show for the discussion on those books. I'll leave those linked below as well. I have really just enjoyed rereading this series. I just feel like I've forgotten so much about them. It's almost like reading them for the first time. I also see certain themes differently now that I didn't see the first time I read them, because I guess I'm older or I'm more well-read and start picking up on a lot of those themes. Like, I didn't see that they were a big deal is what I mean when I read them the first time, but now I look at them differently. For instance, like student-teacher or student-mentor relationships with like a minor. Is she a minor? I don't know. She's like 17 and her guy that she's interested in is like 24. So quite a big age gap, but I think the biggest shocker is just the fact that he's supposed to be her mentor, and then also self-harm and some mental health themes. They're also quite a bit darker than I remember too for some reason. Next, with the Shadowhunter Reading vlog, which by the way, these videos will be out very shortly. My cat is chasing her tail. I'm very excited to be approaching the very end of this project. The books I read for that are Lord of Shadow, Queen of Air and Darkness, and Ghosts of the Shadowhunter Market, which is a short story collection. Of these books, Ghosts of the Shadowhunter Market, yeah. Thankfully, it was amazing and has completely restored my faith in Cassandra Clare's ability to write really well and compelling and beautiful stories and characters that I really love. This collection was phenomenal. Next, that time that I read a bunch of romances. If you've been on my channel very long, you know romances are not really a genre that I read from typically, so I wanted to do a special Valentine's romance reading vlog. And the books that I read for that are The Boss. Well, I technically DNF'd that one, but we do talk about it in the video. The Boss, Hotmail, This Summer I Turned Pretty, Moonlight Sins, which is a Jennifer L. Armentrout romance, adult romance. Most of these, except for This Summer That I Turned Pretty, are adult content, adult smut books. But from these books that I read, Moonlight Sins was so good. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the books that I haven't talked about yet. These are in no particular order. The first one on this list is Letters to a Young Poet by, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this name, Rainier Marie Rilke. Rilke? I'm sorry, I cannot say that. I read this on ebook. I took my dear sweet time with it. And this book was recommended by Emmy. She's a YouTube creator, a booktube creator that I watch regularly. A lot of classic literature and poetry. Her main content are reading vlogs, which are just, they're so beautiful and so cozy and so calming. And I love the way she talks about books. So Rilke happens to be one of her all-time favorite poets, and I am personally on a mission to find poets that I really like, or poetry or poems that I really like. I know they're out there, so I'm giving them a shot, right? I really thought that this was a good place to start. Now, this isn't a book of poems, but I recently read that understanding the poet is often a really great way to understanding their work, which makes total sense. So this book is basically letters back and forth from Rilke to a young writer, aspiring poet himself, who admires Rilke's work and would like to learn his ways, I guess. So they become friends and pen pals, and so I just feel like through these letters you really get kind of a sense of his personality. He offers advice, they talk about grief, and they talk about the writing process a little bit. I also felt that this gave me quite a really good idea of his writing style and his voice from what I've read so far. I really like it. His use of words and language in this book, really beautiful at times, and I know it's going to be completely different from any of his like poems. However, I do look forward to reading some more of his work. The next one is a graphic novel called Adulthood, a Myth by Sarah Anderson. I forgot to look this up to see if it's the same author who does the ones about like being a book nerd and being an introvert. The animation is very similar, and it's like a graphic memoir kind of. So I do remember I really enjoyed it at the time. I buzzed right through it. It's really short. I read it in like one day, one sitting. But to be honest, it's quite forgettable. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It wasn't that great. The next one I read was Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I was highly anticipating this book, as it seems everybody was, because everyone has already read it and done vlogs and published their reviews, and I'm like the last straggler here reading it at the end, it feels like. But with all the hype around it, it started to make me feel a little bit nervous that maybe I was going to create expectations and be disappointed. But this book did not disappoint. It was so good. This is about a 300-year-old girl who walks through life basically immortal, obviously, except that nobody remembers her until one day she runs into a boy who actually remembers her. Now, this one I basically cannot say anything about. I did pick out one thing I could say about it just because I hesitate so much to mention more, because the conditions of how Addie got to be the way that she is and how deep her imprint runs and how it affects everything in her life. It's all just so perfect and should absolutely be discovered as it is intended to be discovered. So therefore, you should absolutely not know anything else going into this book. I'm probably giving the idea that it's like this thrilling adventure, and it's not. I know there's some negative reviews of people saying that they didn't really like it. It was a slog. I didn't find it like that. I really fell into her writing style. I got just sucked in and just fascinated by Addie's life. I really do feel like I have implied something that's probably not there. Anyways, I guess one thing that I really loved about it that wouldn't really ruin anything is I just love how the story is told and like how it weaves through time. I felt like I got such an incredible feeling, like a real sense of what it would be like, to how it would feel to live for so long, and how sense of time is different for our character because time literally means nothing to her at this point. This really might be worth more in-depth discussion at some other time, but that's all I got for now. So let's go ahead and move on to the next book called The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. This is also the final book I have to talk about. This was just a really interesting book. Now, I gave it like 3 stars. The overall enjoyment was just kind of like, oh, okay, that was really cool. So it's a good rating. I'm glad that I listened to it on audiobook. Also, it wasn't what I expected at all. The copy that I had when I first started reading on a physical book, the copy that I had did not have a synopsis on it. It's called The Girl with All the Gifts. So I was assuming it was something like superhero power where she can like do all the things like laser vision or fire and ice and like all the gifts, you know, all in one. That's literally what I thought it was, what I was getting into, and it was not that at all. In fact, this is more like a dystopian zombie apocalypse. The thing I liked most about it, though, that I found that this book is, I feel like it's unique because it really has a basis in real science and I will explain what I mean in just a minute. Let me go ahead and explain what the book is about. So this book is told through this young girl, maybe she's like 11 or 12. It's told through her perspective. It starts out the book as she is in a cell and she's sitting in this chair waiting to be strapped into this chair. So she has to sit down in this chair, and then a guard comes and confines her to the chair before taking her to a classroom. And then as she's being like wheeled down the hall, she can look into other she can kind of see that there are other cells, but she can't turn her head, so she can't like see the other students. So only like her field of vision, as like she's going down, like her peripherals, it's like all she can see. So that being said, it even offers a more interesting storytelling perspective when your perspective is literally just her in the dark, can't see. It's very ooky, and she has no idea what's going on, why the staff is afraid of her and the other children. So there's other children that are also strapped down to the chairs, right? So she goes to this classroom every single day where she learns from this teacher, and she has become really attached to this teacher. The teacher likes to tell stories, and she gets swept up in the stories, and she really likes them. This was kind of another one where it was really difficult to decide how much I should say. But anyways, like I said, it's a dystopian, like zombie apocalypse style. However, the zombies are called hungries. The children in this facility, however, like evolved somehow. So this group of scientists has this facility, and the guards, I guess, have captured some of the students that they see. Some of the kids that they see are different. So there's one scientist that studies like the biology, and then there's this teacher is actually a psychologist who's studying like cognitive responses and their ability to learn and emotional states. So I thought it was so interesting as well. The most interesting thing about the zombie virus in this book is that it's not actually a virus, it is a fungus. And that fungus is actually based on real science. There is a fungus out there that affects insects. And after I read this book, because I remember seeing that years ago, these like zombie insects, right? And I was like, ah, this is crazy. But then I read about this and I was like, I'm gonna do some more research on it. Apparently there's dozens of different funguses that attack insects, and they all kind of work differently. They look a little bit different. The one that we were speaking about in this book, and the one I first knew about, is this one that like gets into the insect and slowly grows and takes over, possessing the insect until the insect starts reaching the end of its life. It will climb up to a high place and it will die. And then a stem, the fungus will grow into a stem and like flower and explode all of its fungus spores all over the place. Like that's how it spreads and hopefully infects others. Yeah, it's really gross. So as I said, this book is based on that. I guess it's like this, as if that fungus could say evolve and then attack humans. And it's so creepy to me. It's like terrifying to me in the sense that like it feels like it really could happen, you know? Oh, there is a sequel to this book as well. However, I feel like personally, like as interesting as it was and the concept, I don't really feel that compelled to continue on with the series. I'm kind of like, I felt one book was enough. There was a point in the book, probably about 2/3 of the way through, where I was kind of bogged down. The story kind of relocated and they were on some other mission, and I kind of lost a little bit of interest. I wanted to see kind of how it would wrap up. It was an interesting ending, but like I said, it wasn't like excellent overall experience reading this book. So I really just personally don't feel compelled to read on. But if you like that kind of thing, I do recommend it. It was really good. And that wraps up this video. And hopefully I will actually have some books to talk about for March wrap up. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. See you later. Bye.